Well, his moment came, strangely enough, on a Monday afternoon at a Burger King in Chesterfield, South Carolina. His name was Lee Coyle. He was the new preacher at the local Baptist church. It had been a hectic Monday at the church office. He was on his way to the hospital to make a quick visit. He surmised that the drive-through line at BK was too long, so he parked and he hopped out and made a mad dash through the front door, hoping to grab a quick, albeit unhealthy, lunch on the run. The girl at the counter smiled as she took his order, and in a matter of seconds, he was heading out with a Whopper value meal and his change safely in hand. As he sat down in his car, prepared to race off towards the hospital, he began to put his money in his wallet when he realized that the cashier had given him $1 too much in change. And so the good devil, bad devil conversation ensued in his head. Should I take it back? Should I not? I'm in a hurry. She could get in trouble. She'll never miss it. But the truth is still the truth. After a little bit of anguishing, he walked back in and waited in line again. Finally made his way up to the same cashier. I'm sorry to bother you, he said, but I wanted to bring this back. You gave me $1 too much in change. She smiled and said, I know I did. I visited your church yesterday for the first time. I heard you talk about honesty and character and integrity. I'll be back again this Sunday. I just wanted to see if you practiced what you preached. Practice what you preach. In divinity school terms, you can't divorce orthodoxy, right belief, from orthopraxis, right behavior. Much more to the point, what you do speaks much louder than what you say. As my wise youngest son is fond of saying, if you characterize people by their actions, you'll never be fooled by their words. Now, for those of us who profess to follow this guy whose birth we celebrated yesterday, we come face to face with a very haunting question this morning. Are we practicing what Jesus preaches? It's the same question that undergirds one of my favorite pieces of writing by the author, theologian, civil rights icon, Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, he writes, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and the princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, then the work of Christmas begins, to find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, to make music in the heart. Howard Thurman found his inspiration for that in Henry Van Dyke's straight to the heart, straight to the point short sermon entitled Keeping Christmas, which was written 125 years ago, but is still incredibly relevant today. We would do well to post it on our doors at home, on our doors at church, on the doors of our heart. It's a good thing to observe Christmas Day, Van Dyke writes. The mere marking of times and seasons when men and women agree to stop work and to make merry together is a wise and wholesome custom. It helps one to feel the supremacy of the common life over the individual life. It reminds a man to set his own little watch now and then by the great clock of humanity. But there is one thing better than the observance of Christmas Day, and that is keeping Christmas. Are you willing to forget what you have done for other people and to remember what other people have done for you? Are you willing to ignore what the world owes you and to think what you owe the world? Are you willing to see that your fellow human beings are just as real as you are and try to look behind their faces to their hearts, hungry for joy? Are you willing to comprehend that the only good reason for your existence is not what you are going to get out of life, but what you are going to give to life? Are you willing to close your book of complaints against the management of the universe and look around you for a place where you can sow a few seeds of happiness? Are you willing to do those things even for a day? Then you can keep Christmas. Are you willing to stoop down and consider the needs of little children? To remember the weakness and loneliness of people who are growing old? To stop asking how much your friends love you and ask whether you love them enough? Are you willing to try and understand what those who live in the same house with you really want without waiting for them to tell you? Are you willing to make a grave for your ugly thoughts and a garden for your kind feelings? Are you willing to do these things even for a day? Then you can keep Christmas. Are you willing to believe that love is the strongest thing in the world? Stronger than hate, stronger than evil, stronger than death, and that the blessed life which began in Bethlehem 1900 years ago is the image, the brightness of eternal love? If so, then you can keep Christmas. And if you keep Christmas for a day, then why can't you keep it always? You know, Christmas is a day that evokes such deep emotion in us, a day to be celebrated, to be enjoyed, to be reveled in. But make no mistake about it, my friends, the true test of Christmas begins today. Can you keep the same spirit you had yesterday alive in you for one more day? And will you share that spirit with the world? One of our generation's most brilliant wordsmiths is, as you know, one of my favorite preachers and authors, a guy by the name of Frederick Buechner. And I love the story Buechner tells about his friend Sam, who was the rector, the priest of a large Episcopal church in upstate New York. Sam's church was in the middle of its annual Christmas pageant. As usual, the manger was right down here in front of the chancel steps. Mary was there, reverently wearing her blue mantle. Joseph looked ever wistful with his bushy cotton beard. The wise men were there, along with a handful of shepherds. And of course, in the midst of them all, the Christ child was there, lying in the straw. Sam, the rector, read the nativity story aloud. All the carols were sung at all the appropriate places. Everything went like clockwork. That is, until it came time for the arrival of the angels of the heavenly host, represented by the children of the congregation who were robed in white and who were scattered all throughout the congregation with their parents. At the right moment, they were supposed to come forward from their seats, gather around the manger, singing, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace and goodwill among men." And that's just what they did. Except there were so many of them that there was a lot of crowding and jockeying for position, with the end result being that one particular angel, a little girl about 9 years old, who was smaller than the rest of them, ended up so far out on the fringe of things that not even by standing on her tiptoes could she see what was going on. She couldn't see the manger. "Glory to God in the highest, on earth peace, goodwill towards men," they all sang on cue. And then, in that momentary pause that followed, the small girl electrified the entire church by crying out in a voice shrill with irritation and frustration from having her view blocked, "For Christ's sake, will you let Jesus show?" Now, there was a lot of the service left to go, but Sam, the Episcopal rector, says one of the best things he ever did in his pastoral life was to end the Christmas pageant right there. "For Christ's sake, will you let Jesus show?" While the congregation was sitting in stunned silence, Sam pronounced the benediction. Everyone filed out of the church with those words ringing in their ears. Let Jesus show. Let Jesus show this week by approaching that coworker, that neighbor who gets on your last nerve, and asking them if maybe they need a listening ear. Let Jesus show this week by working towards reconciliation with a family member or a friend who has been long estranged. Let Jesus show this week by keeping Christmas, in the immortal words of Henry Van Dyke, forgetting what you think the world owes you and concentrating on what you owe the world. Let Jesus show this week by stooping down and considering the needs of little children, by remembering the weakness, the loneliness of people who are growing old. Get out of your comfort zone. Get to where they are. For Christ's sake, for the world's sake, Community Church, let Jesus show this week in what you say and in what you do. Because that, my friends, is where the real work of Christmas begins.